All right, welcome again to another John's Media World Extra. I spent the entire day so far trying to find a body shop to fix the dents in my new EV put there by golf ball sized hail that went through the Madison, Wisconsin area. Some local communities had baseball size hail that broke their windshields and windows in their homes, plus left huge dents. Nothing like mine, but still golf ball size is a good dent. Especially, I found out, in the surface of my EV, because obviously they use lighter metals, thinner metals for the EVs to increase the mileage. And I think that's what put so many dents in my 2022 EV6 from Kia. So anyway, I spent a lot of time doing this. It's a costly endeavor. $1,000 deductible with my insurance company. Very good insurance company, though. And they have some reliable body shops that they referred me to. $1,000 deductible. But these things cost, when you try to get a medium event like this fixed, it costs about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. So it's kind of hefty, at least for the insurance company. It's still $1,000 for me. My mega friend in Milwaukee is not feeling any of the pain of climate change. I mean, we have weather events like this. Never in Wisconsin. I am quite old. I have lived here all my life, and I have never seen golf ball size hail in the Madison or Milwaukee area. Just the way it is. Sorry. And all of a sudden we have it. And of course, my friend continually repeats the one line that Trump has repeated over and over. So he repeats it over and over. It's the biggest hoax perpetrated on the world: climate change. Stupid. Now, I've asked him a dozen times at least. There's a lot of proof that climate change exists. He says it doesn't, or he doesn't believe in it because the orange madman told him so. But at the same time, almost all of us in life, somewhere along the way, we err on the side of safety, right? I mean, because it could go either way, but, I'd much rather be safe than sorry. And that's what exposes the MAGAs. They would much rather not play it safe. Isn't that crazy? That's what proves that they are like heading off the cliff and they want to take us all with them. I don't know. I don't know why they feel this way. Why not just play it safe? Why not take the safe way out? It really, I was going to say it doesn't cost them anything. It doesn't really make a difference in their lives, especially my friend who rents. And they just don't experience the cost of all of this stuff. I'm going to spend $1,000 deductible fixing up my car because of golf ball size hail. That's so fine. You know what else? I actually went out and bought a $200 cover now for the vehicle. Anytime there's another tornado watch, warning, hail prediction, that baby is going to be covered. I didn't think of it before because it's never happened. We've had hail, but certainly nothing to create dents on the surface of a car. So anyway, it's costing me money. He doesn't know anything about it. Of course, that's by design. Anyway, that's my morning, and I'm working through it. And I'm jobless, so, these costs kind of mount up a little bit. But other than that, why don't we get to the current list of stories? And again, it's another eventful Idiocracy. We are there, and we have a whole bunch of different stories to play for you today. And we're going to start off with Kash Patel. Just an amazing thing. He's been working on this for a long, long time because he's obsessed with it. He thinks that Trump won the 2020 election. He's been trying to prove it ever since. So now he's found the proof that it was rigged, and they started to rig the election, if you want to believe this, and he said it, and you're going to hear it, 20 to 30 years ago. Maria Bartiromo gets that out of him. So why don't we check this out? This is Kash Patel.
Let me ask you about the mission, because every time I see President Trump, he says this repeatedly, that the election was rigged in 2020. I mean, he says it all the time. We all know that. And it's almost getting lost because he says it so much. You've been at the FBI now 14 months. Have you done anything
You say it
about
a lot,
that?
too.
And do you have anything to tell us about that?
Absolutely, Maria. Look, I've been with the president nearly since day one on this. As I told you earlier, I was the one that led the effort with folks like Trey Gowdy, Johnny Ratcliffe, and Devin Nunes to expose the corruption.
What a rogues gallery that is, huh?
Trump's first presidential election run, and we saw the FISA abuses there. And I lived through it, and the media came at me then too. That just shows you that when you're over the target, you keep pummeling the target because the media is going to try and pummel you. We are not going to take this, and have not taken this laying down. We did already indict former Director Comey, and that's going through the judicial process. But we also, at this FBI, even though we uncovered what we uncovered back in the House Intel days, I had to come in here and find rooms that they hid from the world. I had to come in here and find access on our computer systems in restricted and prohibited case files that they purposely put in places for no one to see and find.
No, they probably had it there for a reason, to keep it away from the public. And these rooms, these hidden rooms, my goodness sakes, maybe he's finally discovering that they actually have an office and there are rooms in them. Anyway, let's listen.
We have found all this information. We are working with our Department of Justice partners, and I am never going to let this go, because they not only have personally attacked the presidency of the United States and President Trump, but they tried to thwart our elections and rig the entire system. And that is not something that is going to stop on it. That is not something I'm going to allow on my watch. But you just have to remember, they built this disease temple over 20 and 30 years. We've got all the evidence. I can announce on your show that we've got all the information we need. We're working with our prosecutors at the Department of Justice and their Attorney General Todd Blanche, and we are going to be making arrests, and it's coming, and I promise you, it's coming soon.
Well,
that is fantastic, isn't it? I can't wait to see the arrests. This was put in place 20 to 30 years ago. It's a diseased temple. Who uses terms like that? All right. Maybe he included one of his children's storybooks about, what is it, Mad King Don, I think it was. All right. Well, that's Kash Patel, of course, talking about the disease temple that we are building here, and we've been building it for 30 years just to get even with Trump, just to make him look bad. That's really what it's all about. And they're going to stick with that because it's an all-encompassing excuse. All right, now let's go to the next story here in our special Idiocracy edition. Again, we have a whole bunch of disconnected stories, but they're very important stories to get to. While RFK Jr. blocks vaccines and the research for vaccines, Trump immediately approved a drug purely on anecdotal evidence.
I want to tell everybody how this happened. I sent President Trump some information. We have a gigantic opiate problem in this country, obviously. In 2024, more than 80,000 people died of overdoses. It's a horrible number. And there's more than 5 million people that are addicted to opiates right now in this country. With one dose of Ibogaine, more than 80% of people are free of that addiction.
See, this confirms that I really, truly think that Trump has a third eye in the back of his head. All right. It's just, see, watch.
With 2 doses, it's more than 90%. I sent him that information. The text message came back, sounds great. Do you want FDA approval? Let's do it. It was literally that quick.
It's that easy.
These drugs are illegal not because they're harmful. They're illegal because of the 1970 Controlled Substances Act that was passed by the Richard Nixon administration. They did it to target the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement. It's not because these drugs harm people. And for 56 years, we've lived under those terrible conditions.
Nice theory, but crazy, isn't it?
We're free of that now. We're free of that now.
We're free.
Thanks to all these people that you see next to me, and thanks to President Trump.
Thank you. I want to thank you. It's really amazing stuff. Yes, he approved it on the spot. Tell the FDA to approve this particular drug based on the anecdotal convincing and evidence from Joe Rogan himself. This is the way they're doing it. RFK Jr. wants rigorous testing of everything. Placebos, the whole works. We have a different way of approaching it, also by recommendation, anecdotal evidence, and that is the way to approve drugs. I don't even want to mention the drug, but I don't know. I think after all these years, ivermectin still works wonders for everything. And I think every mega should definitely try ivermectin and forget all the other prescription drugs out there. Just trying to help. All right, now let's get to Ellis Stephanic. What is with her? You know, she's nuts, right? She goes crazy. She's off on the deep end here.
I just think a call for genocide on a college campus and a call for genocide made by the President of the United States, like, they're both bad, right? I mean, that's what I think.
I've condemned genocide across the board. The difference with those university presidents is they couldn't answer the simple, direct question. Just calling for the genocide of Jews. President Trump didn't call for genocide.
See, here's the thing, you know, the campus protests, if there were a few people out there saying that they want genocide, they're the few people out there that are saying it. They're responsible for what they're saying. She wants to close down the campus, all protests, simply because there are people out there saying crazy things. All right?
Jake, you are putting those words in his mouth. He is engaging in diplomatic back and
Your
forth.
entire civilization will die.
To the table. And we should, it's the terrorist regime, Jake. He's targeting the terrorist regime.
His words.
You can continue the decades long, but you're adding genocide. That's not what he's
What is wiping
stated.
out an entire civilization?
In the case of the university presidents, I specifically asked them about calling for the genocide of Jews. Again, the president is correct to call out the Iranian terrorist regime, to bring them to the table, to force a ceasefire, and frankly, to free the Middle East from this largest state sponsor of terror that has not only killed American lives, but has targeted Israel and the United States of America, including assassination attempts against our elected officials.
Is calling for wiping out a civilization. Is calling for wiping out an entire civilization
the
bad or
Iranian
good?
terrorist regime.
But that's not what he said.
No, he didn't say that.
That is not what he is calling for. He wasn't calling for genocide.
Your entire civilization will die.
She knows what Trump is thinking. A lot of times when you ask them a question about what Trump said, they say, well, I didn't hear the question, so I wouldn't know what's in his mind. In this case, she knows exactly what Trump is thinking.
The Iranian terrorist regime.
All right.
It was targeted
Agree
toward
to
the
disagree.
Iranian terrorist regime.
Agree to disagree. The book is
CNN. This is typical CNN.
Okay.
If you want to compare the President of the United States to the university presidents who failed to call for the condemnation of calling for the genocide of Jews, that's on you, Jake. The world saw how morally equivocating those university presidents were. Yes, you're the one that is it's not.
She's calling for censoring protesters on campus. That's what she's calling for. And she's vilifying the campus and the authorities who didn't take care of or arrest these protesters. This is crazy stuff.
Not a comparison. So if you want to make that comparison,
you if you have the
that's
same
on
standard
CNN.
for somebody.
That is not the comparison. Of course, genocide is bad across the board, Jake. President Trump effectively brought the Iranians to the table. He effectively delivered a ceasefire, and he is going to effectively deliver peace to the Middle East to stop, frankly, the killing of the Iranian terrorist regime, which kills their own people and has created havoc across the Middle East.
We have people who actually supported the strikes against Iran, Iranian Americans and Iranian advocates on the show all the time, and they all were horrified when President Trump called for a genocide of the Iranian, to quote unquote, wipe out your entire civilization.
He's not calling for a genocide of the Iranians. It's targeted towards the Iranian terrorist regime. It's been consistent throughout, Jake. And again, that has brought the Iranians to the table. And let's talk about the Iranians have killed tens of thousands of their own people.
Let's bring that up.
So if you want to prop up the Iranian terrorist regime, that's on you. The president has been very effective in calling out the Iranian terrorist regime.
There's something definitely wrong with Ellis Stephanic. All right. I mean, we can all agree at least on that. All right, now let's get to Governor Tim Walz, his opinion of the madman in the White House. Let's watch.
We've got a feeble-minded, trigger-happy president who plunged us into a war where no threat was present, with no clear objectives and no exit plan. We need to call that what it is. That's fascism.
That's fascism. You know, we get criticized for using the word fascism because, well, we're kind of defanging it a little bit by using it so much. So it doesn't really mean anything anymore. No, it's a word that describes exactly what's going on in this country. Right? Why not use it? All right. This is kind of important because this is from Mayor Zohran Mamdani. All right. He's got a certain way of looking at what Democrats should be doing for the upcoming election, how they should be approaching it, what they should be framing, what maybe they should even be talking about. It doesn't get into the details, but at least he gives Democrats an idea of what that outline should be. Let's listen.
Do you have any thoughts about this debate over generational change? Is it time for a younger generation of politicians in the Democratic Party?
I think it's time for a party that reflects the urgency that we're seeing across this country in terms of a hunger, frankly, that is not as much tied just to age, but to vision. You know, we know very well what we oppose. What are we for? That is a question that I think we have to be able to answer. What are we fighting for? It was not just enough in this mayoral campaign to say that I wasn't like other mayoral candidates. We had to always answer the question of New Yorkers, what we deliver for them. And I really think that that is at the heart of the question for our party. And I'll be honest with you, when you look back at the history books of our party, 100 years ago, we had a very clear vision of what we were fighting for. And it is sad that for too many Americans, when they want to look for ambition in the Democratic Party, they have to turn to a history book.
Anyway, let's take a break, and we'll be right back with Derrick Van Ordan. Back again, John Peterson, Media World Extra. We're going to talk about House member Derrick Van Ordan. He's out there touting the tax cuts because he's running for re-election, even though he ceded all his power to the madman in the White House. But he's out there bragging about it. And there is a small business tax cut. The National Federation of Independent Businesses released a report, and they say the benefits of 20% of the businesses, it works out really well for them. This is what they wrote. This permanent tax relief means certainty and levels the playing field for small businesses against their large corporate competitors. First of all, you can't use the word certainty anytime during this administration. It used to be a big buzzword on the right. They can't use it anymore. Now, imagine leveling the playing field between the corporate competitors and small businesses. Try getting rid of supplying health care to your employees. Universal health care coverage would solve that problem immediately. It would level the playing field. All right? But Derrick Van Ordan is bragging about the tax cuts that he was part of passing. He wrote this. He posted this. It's tax day and Republicans' working family tax cuts are delivering for the dairy state. Wisconsin farmers and producers are keeping more of what they earned, reinvesting in their operations and preserving their family farms for the next generation. No, we had a Governor Scott Walker since 2011, and he destroyed farming in the state. We had bankruptcies, farms going out of business, family farms going out of business. It wasn't a pretty sight. And then Derrick went into Washington, yay, and did nothing there. So anyway, he's bragging about this. I don't know why he brought it up, but I'm bringing it up. And many farmers are out there waiting for the bailout to arrive in the mail so they can continue their family farms. Not happening because bankruptcies are going up. I have a report here to prove my point that Derrick Van Ordan doesn't know what he's talking about. Let's listen.
Now, despite that, economists at the American Farm Bureau Federation say this year's latest outlook continues to reflect declining receipts and an ongoing reliance on help from the government, which is expected to increase by 45% this year. USDA also providing new numbers about last year, showing net farm income was down roughly $25 billion from the almost $180 billion forecasted in September. Economists at American Farm Bureau Federation say the revisions suggest the farm economy is experiencing a generational downturn rather than a temporary slowdown.
Not good. Not
and
good.
that downturn weighing on some farmers last year as farm bankruptcies were on the rise in 2025 for a second year in a row. The American Farm Bureau Federation says Chapter 12 bankruptcies reached 315 filings last year, which represents a 46% increase from 2024. The Midwest and Southeast, those areas saw most of those, with deep crop losses across commodities in those two regions.
Actually, a couple of years ago, during 22 through 2024, it's probably been the lowest it's been in the last 20 years at almost 100, 150. It's starting to trend up. You know, the average was about 450. It's up to almost 300 as of 2025. So the trend is going up, but it's still not as bad as it was, let's say, 10, 15 years ago.
AFBF says the nation's leading rice-producing state, Arkansas, leads the U.S. in Chapter 12 filings in 2025. But it's not just an uptick in the number of farmers filing for bankruptcy that we're seeing. Ag lenders at Top Producer Summit this week told us they are also seeing more farmers exit the business.
I think the answer to that is both. I think you are seeing producers who are looking both at 26 and potentially 27, and they're saying, I don't see things improving materially, and I don't want to see any more either working capital erosion or equity erosion, and they're making that decision to exit on their own. But I do believe that with the current challenges we face, we will see examples of both.
Cargill is closing a beef plant in Milwaukee. The company announcing in a warn notice to Wisconsin officials that it's permanently closing its plant in the city, which will eliminate 221 jobs. The company says it will start winding down operations soon, with production stopping in mid-April and the plant closing by the end of May.
There you go. Not great news for Milwaukee, that's for sure. Derrick continued to brag about the tax cuts. One, tax cuts for Social Security. He wrote this. Thanks to Republicans' working families tax cuts, 88% of seniors will pay no tax on Social Security. Our seniors built this country. This is the relief they deserve. All right. Now, just a little reminder here. Another Republican, Ronald Reagan, is responsible for taxing Social Security. So this fixes a problem they created, I guess. Also, Derrick Van Ordan wrote this. Every parent knows the weight of raising a family. That's why Republicans deliver the working families tax cuts, up to $2,200 for every child in the child tax credit. It's pro-family, pro-Wisconsin policy, helping families with today's costs while investing in the next generation. I don't know. It's only up $200. It used to be $2,000 per child. Now it's up to $2,200. Thank you so much for the pennies. Although, you know, we did have an experiment during COVID where we halved poverty in this country when we increased the child tax credit to $3,000 to $3,500, I believe. That halved poverty in this country. So I don't know. Could have done that, but Republicans didn't want to continue that program. They had the option of renewing that tax cut, that child tax credit, for around $3,000 to $3,500, but they decided not to. So they went back and at least gave $200 more onto the $2,000 originally in the child tax credit. So he's really happy about adding the $200. That's going to change things. So let's get to his final message. I was at his Facebook site, and I thought this was really good. Proud to be part of the Sharia-Free America Caucus. Wow. He's been busy, huh? You know, that was on top of my list, too. Yeah. Go, Derrick. I'm John Peterson. This is Media World Extra. We'll be back with more tomorrow. Take care.